Hello driving intelligence community. This video is going to be a doozy. This little box, which holds a $12 item, resolved the problem that Ford said was going to cost $17,000. A friend of a friend contacted me and told me that his 2013 3.5 Ecoboost turbo was having problems with just purging oil coming out the exhaust. There was oil coming out of different orifices on the engine. It was a disaster. Ford Motor Company, at one of their dealerships, the manager or the mechanic took a look at the engine and said, "We're not going to work on this. It's got 177,000 miles on it. Needs to be replaced." Proceeded to give him a quote for $17,000. I've got a copy of that quote. I'm going to show you the quote in my video, and I'm going to show you what it took to actually resolve this problem. Stay tuned. Before I get started, I'm not trying to bust on Ford Motor Company. I actually like Fords. I have 3 in my garage. I have a Cadillac, so I like all automotive manufacturers. But I don't like lazy mechanic shops or mechanics. And in this case, this was absolutely lazy. They didn't even want to take a look at it. They just wanted to give him a quote for an engine replacement. This is a copy of the estimate that Ford gave this owner. He took it to Ford because he thought he could trust them and they would have all the knowledge needed since they built the vehicle. He complained about oil coming out the exhaust and he had a bunch of engine codes. So Ford decided to put it up on the lift. They did a full visual inspection, didn't do anything else. I think they also ran the codes, but because of the visual inspection and the age of the vehicle and 177,000 miles, they told him that it's not serviceable and that he needs to replace the engine for $16,614. So now with that being said, let's move on to the repair that I made. After talking to the owner, honestly, I thought it was a blown turbo. It could have been a head gasket, but he said he didn't have any water in the oil or oil in the water. So we agreed that I would take a look at it. He drove to my place. As he pulled up, I'm listening to the vehicle. It sounds absolutely perfect. Doesn't sound like it's missing. I don't hear any turbo noise. There's no smoke coming out the exhaust. So I put it up on some ramps and proceeded to do an inspection. As Ford indicated, there were oil leaks everywhere. I checked the coolant, I checked the oil. There was no mixing of oil and water anywhere. So I knew it wasn't a head gasket. I had him load up the engine with the turbos. I didn't hear any problem with the turbos. They sounded great. But I did see a lot of oil leakage everywhere that concerned me about maybe overpressurization of the crankcase. So I wanted to check all the systems that would manage oil, and actually the first thing I checked was the PCV. After pulling this PCV, you can see that there is no contents. These things should be making noise. Looked all over town, and there must be a big run on these things. That's why they're not in stock. Maybe they fail, and from what I've heard, it should be replaced every 60,000 miles. But as I take it out of the box, you can hear that the PCV system is inoperable. This is probably what's allowing all that oil to blow through. You can see that this thing probably went catastrophic. That little piece right here that should have been on this one is probably in the engine, which may need to be a future project to take that valve cover off and find it. Fortunately, it's probably big enough not to get caught anywhere, but it could end up in one of the valve parts or valve train parts. So that's something that's going to have to be done in the near future. The PCV is extremely easy to replace. You unscrew it a quarter turn after removing the disconnects on the hoses that go from the intake manifold to the PCV. To reinstall it, it's a quarter turn back in, but make sure you oil that O-ring so that you don't bind it up and cause an air leak. When I ran diagnostics, James also had some codes associated with variable valve timing, and I was thinking that probably it was associated with oil contamination on the electrical connectors since oil was being pushed out everywhere by the turbo boost. I disconnected the connectors, cleaned them with CRC electrical contact cleaner, reinstalled them, and that vehicle is running almost as good as new.